If you've ever had to hunt through a passage to find a missing piece of information, you've probably answered an identifying details question. Today we'll cover what these questions are and some strategies for how to answer them correctly. So, identifying details questions, as we mentioned, are those questions where you need to find facts or information from the passage. They may be directly stated, they might be paraphrased, but in the end, you're hunting for information that comes right from the passage. So there are a couple of tricks for answering these identifying details questions correctly. The first one is to annotate while reading. This means jotting down 2 or 3 words about what each paragraph is about while you read. This is going to help you later identify where to look for evidence. The second step you can do is to identify keywords in the question. Pick out what are those most important words that you're going to want to pay attention to when you get down to your third step of skim for evidence using your annotations and keywords. Skimming for evidence is absolutely key to answering identifying details questions correctly. You have to go back to the passage and look for evidence. All right, so let's try this out with a passage. So our first step is to read and annotate as you do so. So now would be a great time for you to pause the video, read the passage, and jot down 2 to 3 words about what each paragraph is about. Okay, what did you answer? For the first paragraph, I had recession. For the second paragraph, I had stock and bank crash. And for the third, I had consequences. All right, so now our second step is to check for key words in our question. So let's take a look at that question. Our question says, according to the text, which of the following is true of Black Thursday? All right, so it's pretty clear that Black Thursday is going to be our keyword. So go ahead and skim back over the text. Where do you see Black Thursday mentioned? Well, I see it mentioned at the very beginning of the second paragraph right there. So that means I'm going to look slightly before and slightly after it as I'm skimming and scanning for evidence. So now our third step is to look for evidence. So let's go ahead and check our answer choices. A, it occurred on October 24th, 1928. Well, I do see an October 24th mentioned, but it is 1929. So that one would be inaccurate. B, it happened when bankers began withdrawing their deposits. Well, if I skim and scan for withdrawing their deposits, maybe as my keywords, I do see that mentioned here, but the people who are doing that are investors. They aren't bankers, so that one's not quite accurate. C, it resulted after investors pushed their stock to illogically high prices. So I'm going to kind of look for investors, stock, and high prices. And I'm going to look in the first paragraph since that might be where we would mention a cause of Black Thursday. And I do see that investors kept buying more stock and pushing their prices to delusory heights, which that seems to actually match up with that piece of evidence. So let's keep that one on in the running. D, it caused American consumers to reduce spending on consumer goods. All right, so I'm going to look for something about consumers and spending, which I do see in the first paragraph that American shoppers spent less than usual on consumer goods, but it's not mentioned that Black Thursday caused that. So that one's not quite right. And then E, it affected 29 million investors. Well, I'm going to skim and scan for 29 million, which I do see mentioned here, but it's talking about shares, not investors. So I'm going to eliminate that one, which leaves us with C. Let's wrap up with some quick review. Whenever you see a question that's asking you to identify a detail from the passage, the first thing you should make sure that you do is annotate while you read to help you know where to look for evidence. The second thing you should do is identify keywords in the question and in the answer choices that will help you as you skim and scan. And then third, always find a piece of evidence that's going to prove your answer choice correct. You should now be prepared to answer any identifying details questions you see on the SSAT.